question like this on your quiz? It's in your study guide too. So, what do we know about an equilateral triangle?
All the sides are the same.
All the sides are the same.
Oh.
And what about the angles? What are they? 60. Now they talk about an altitude, which an altitude, remember, is perpendicular to one of the sides and touches a vertex. So the easiest way to draw an altitude in would be to draw it straight down to the base. And that would divide the top angle into 30 and 30. Surprise, surprise, 30, 60, 90 triangle. The altitude is 12. So you would label 12 along that side. They want us to find the perimeter of the triangle. So we need to figure out what one of the sides is, and then we can multiply by 3, or we could add all 3 together. So using our 30, 60, 90 formulas, across from the 30 would be S. Across from the 60 is our S root 3. And across from our 90 is our 2S. So we would end up with S root 3 equals 12. And we'll have to solve out for S. So divide by the square root of 3. Rationalize our denominator. 12 root 3 over 3. Divide to get 4 root 3. So this is the value of S. Sorry, I just printed a lot of stuff. Alright, now, S is only this little piece. You need to find out how the whole leg is, which, if this is 4 root 3, this is 4 root 3. And please realize, if you add radicals, because we didn't really go over adding radicals because we didn't need it a lot, when you add radicals, you have to have like radicands, which is the number under the radical, and you add them almost as if they're like terms. 4x plus 4x would be 8x. So 4 root 3 plus 4 root 3 will be 8 root 3. Okay, you also could have doubled it up here. 2 times 4 root 3 will get you 8 root 3. So all of the sides are 8 root 3. So to find the perimeter, we either need to add 8 root 3 plus 8 root 3 plus 8 root 3, or since it's a equilateral triangle, you could just take 3 times 8 root 3. And that will get me 24 root 3. Now, since it did say round to the nearest tenth, you would not want to round until you got to this point. So the square root of 3 times 24. And we do get 41.56, which will be 41.6 centimeters. You will see questions like that on your study guide and questions like that on your quiz. There's going to be questions on the quiz that require you to use knowledge from chapter 7, chapter 6. There's rhombus stuff on there. There's triangle stuff, geometric mean. So it's going to have some prior knowledge assessed on Tuesday's quiz. Reagan?
So what we learned 2 days ago was this next root 2.
It's 45, 45, 90. Yes. And then this one had 30, 60, 90, so we had to use our S root 3, 2S.
Okay.
And sometimes they mix them and throw them together. So we saw that on some of the homework problems. Did everyone pick up the right triangle study sheet? Let's fill it out first, and then we'll go over the homework. So this is just a sheet that's going to have everything you need to memorize for your quiz from chapter 8. So we remember the parts of the right triangle, Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or you can flip it using your symmetric property of equality. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. And then the little chart below has how we classify the triangles as right, acute, or obtuse. So if c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, we know that that would be a right triangle. If c squared is greater than a squared plus b squared, what type of triangle is that? Obtuse. And if it's less than, it will be acute. You do have to square them before you add them. You can't just do c is greater than a plus b. It has to be the squares. And also make sure that you remember to put the c squared first so that the symbols make sense. And then we learned our special right triangles. Square root of 45, or 45, 45, 90 would be our s root 2. And you can always change the variable too. Sometimes when those questions where they take the two triangles and they shove them together, you might want to use a different letter for one triangle, like S, and then maybe use X for the other one, because the formulas might be different, and then you might not get confused as to what S is. Our 30, 60, 90, across from the 30, remember, is our smallest side, S. Across from the 60 is our S root 3. And across from our 90 is our 2S. And then triples. We know 3, 4, 5, or should. Who knows some other ones? Don't give me multiples of this one. Give me the other original.
3, 5, 8.
What?
3, 5, 8.
There's one like 7, 12,
5, 12, 13. Is one. Jenna?
13,
8, 15, 17.
7, 24, 25.
Good. And that's it for like the most commonly used ones, and then you can multiply all of those by constants to come up with more. The front page of your quiz, there are a ton of triples on there. So if you know your triples, you'll just be able to kind of fill in without having to, otherwise you're going to have to do the Pythagorean theorem a lot on your quiz. So not mandatory that you know them, but again, you may have trouble finishing the quiz if you don't know your triples. So if you're not going to memorize them, just get really fast at your Pythagorean theorem. Something to mention, let's see if I have a blank sheet here I can pull up. Let me just pull a number from this page. How would I find the length of x? Reagan? No.
Or you take half the 10. Because if it's...
You're assuming we know the angles. I didn't tell you any of the angles except the right angle. Avery?
2, 2. It's the same as the other one. Like 2 square roots of
No.
5.
Not necessarily.
Well, no.
It's not a 45, 45, 90.
Well, there's a 90-degree angle.
Correct.
It's
But you could have a 50, 40, 90, right?
Peter clarified.
Exactly. I didn't clarify. That's why you can't use special right triangles. So that's why after I teach you special right triangles, you guys will try to use them on all the problems. They only work if it's a 45, 45, 90, or if it's a 30, 60, 90. Parker? What? Pythagorean theorem. So every year on this quiz I'm going to give you on Tuesday, there are questions where you can only use the Pythagorean theorem. But after I teach you specials, you guys think that, oh, I can just use my formulas for all of them. And then you'll get some of the easy questions wrong because you'll start using specials where you're not allowed to. So I wanted to just kind of draw attention to that. We can do this one if you want. This would be x squared. Now remember, when you square this, use parentheses. Make sure you square each of the terms. Good. We'll get 4. The square root of 5 squared is 5. So we'll get 20. 10 squared is 100. Subtract. And if we were in algebra, we put a plus or minus. So just please be aware of that. You'll see it on your study guide, but stop using specials for everything. It only works now. You can, Avery, if I had this. If I have markings on the sides, then you can say that it is a 45, 45, 90, because you would know it's an isosceles right triangle, which would mean that these angles have to be congruent. and then you can conclude that they are 45s. But I didn't have any markings and I didn't have any angles, so just be very careful for your quiz. All right, what questions do we have from our homework assignment? I had someone ask me, was it 19?